Yes, Be Quiet is continuing with the trend of making their chassis more breathable and more capable of passing gas. Air. Sorry, I meant to say air. Hi guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to my channel. Here it is, the new successor of the Silent Base 801 model, the Silent Base 802. A high-end mid-tower chassis that aims to be as efficient as possible when it comes to noise and cooling performance. As you can clearly see, this particular version comes in the white color and with the metal left side panel. And just to get it right out of the way, beside this color you can also choose a black one. And of course there's a version with the tempered glass left side panel, so that's a total of 4 variations. With all of that out of the way, let's put some components into this puppy. Yeah, okay, it's rather big for a puppy. The main difference between the Silent Base 802 and its predecessor from the outside comes from the fact that you now have an option to choose between airflow and complete silence when it comes to the top and front panel. You'll get 2 different types of covers, ones that are just one-piece plastic covers and ones that are meshed. Both can be switched in a matter of seconds, especially the top one, which is magnetic. The regular panels have this very thick layer of sound insulation on them, 10mm thick on the front panel and 3mm thick on the top panel. They did separate the top panels into 2 pieces, one longer and one shorter, with the latter one having some level of breathability through these horizontal cutouts, because hot air needs to come out somewhere, although they do have these small vents on the side. The overall design and shape is pretty much the same with these cut-off corners where the panels meet each other, big handle-like feet raising the whole chassis for better airflow for bottom's intake point, for which you can easily access its dust filter on the front, while they moved away from the orange accents and kept the same build quality and rigid feel, although there is some discoloration with this white version between the plastic and metal parts due to different surface finish. Another change is seen on the IOs, where now beside 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, separate audio in and out ports, you also have one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, which sort of feels like it was forced there looking like this, just slotted in, instead of that top framing being made around it, but I assume it was easier just to cut that part out and put it like this, instead of making a new tooling to create that part of the frame. You still have different levels of fan speed control using this switch, and of course power on, reset switch and LED indicators. To pull the side panels up, we still have those buttons on the back that you just press, and the top edge of the panel just pops out, after which you can just pull it upwards and that's it, you are in, while the right side panel here again reveals the application of the 10mm sound insulation foam. Stripping the front of its dust filter reveals 2 140mm Pure Wings 2 fans and another one you will find on the back side for the exhaust. Here you can fit up to 420mm radiator, while on the top that's 360mm, with plenty of space between it and the motherboard, and here you will also find this sliding installation bracket, which makes installing anything up there that much easier. Speaking of the liquid cooling, be sure to check out my review of Be Quiet's latest Pure Loop Cooling, an all-in-one water cooler that has a very interesting placement for the pump. You've also probably noticed the white Shadowrock 3R CPU cooler, which is the first one for Be Quiet in terms of the color, and fits awesomely with its chassis. It didn't have any problems housing it, as it accepts air CPU coolers up to 105mm tall. I already did a review on its regular counterpart, but this one will be put against a couple of budget options like the Cooler Master's Hyper 212 and Be Quiet's brother Pure Rock 2, so be sure to subscribe for that one. I'll put in the links in the comments down below and in the top corner cards for all of that. On the right side we have basically the same layout, a carrying plate behind the motherboard tray for 2 2.5-inch drives and one more below it, SATA powered fan hub with 6 3-pin connections and PWM control. At the bottom we have a separate cage with 2 spots for drives, next to that a place for power supply with nice thick padding and separate installation frame. Here you will again see a few spots for the optional slotted drive cages. These ones don't have those plastic covers since they won't be visible from the outside. Be Quiet for some reason significantly reduced the number of those cages coming in the bundle to only 1 instead of 3 with 8021. Other than that, there's plenty of room for doing cable management, enough cable routes and space to go about freely, as well as the tied down points, and you can strap everything in with their velcro ties from the bundle. Although the inner main side feels a bit dated due to everything being, so to speak, broken in different visible sections and not being more streamlined, like in some newer examples, one of which is Fractal's Meshify 2, which I just recently reviewed, the Silent Base 802 still offers the same level of flexibility when it comes to building in it. It's essentially the same as its brother. We have a big power supply shroud that has plastic top covers, which can easily be removed for more airflow and or positioning of water cooling components, a lot of pass-through holes and rubber grommets for the cables, and an option to put the graphics card vertically with these added expansion slots. Enough about that, let's check out how this chassis performs where it matters the most, airflow and cooling of the components housed inside it, as well as how well it keeps the noise out, with which I'll start off first. Here are a few different scenarios with combining mesh and regular panels, or only using each of the version, and different chassis fan speed configuration. Everything will be marked and shown in the corner of the video. As for the temperatures, as you can see here, we have an obvious difference between each of the fan speed and panel setup scenario that I've showcased. The GPU sees a pretty substantial temperature gain if everything is closed off, but in the grand scheme of things it's still okay, especially when it comes to the CPU, that in this case being the Ryzen 7 3700X. I don't think it will be a problem finding a good balance between these scenarios that will fit your particular need, because there's a lot of them to begin with, plus there's a lot more that can be additionally configured if you go for a different cooling route and more chassis fans. Although not a lot has changed in its core design, Be Quiet made some strategic upgrades on the outside that now made the Silent Base 802 that much overall better, an evolution of it if you will, which still makes it a great chassis and now also a tad more appealing on account of having basically two different airflow and noise configurations to choose from. This is something which they in a way had to do as competition is getting fierce, especially in the airflow department, as well as the growing tendency of this price segment's offering. Speaking of that, the launch price is a bit higher, $160 instead of $150, but you do get that panel flexibility, but then again it also lacks those extra 3.5-inch drive bays from before. That's it for this time for me. Thank you once again for watching. Please take a second to toss me a thumbs up if you enjoyed my content. That really helps a lot. And if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe. And if you already are, be sure to press that notification bell so you don't miss out on a new video. And until then, catch you later guys.